Alright people, today we are going to be talking about and reviewing Metroid Prime Federation Force on the 3DS here. This is one of the last major first-party 3DS games that I really wanted to get around to playing that I just hadn't done until this year. But with the announcement that the servers will be shutting down in April of next year, 2024, I wanted to finally go back and play this game. So I got some friends together and I did just that. So let's talk about one of the most controversial Nintendo games ever made. Now, before we talk about the game itself, we need to talk about the kind of circumstances surrounding its announcement. This game was announced in 2015 at E3 2015, and it was actually not announced as a Metroid game at first. If you remember, that was the first year Nintendo had brought back the Nintendo World Championships, and as part of that, they teased some announcements. That's where they announced Earthbound Beginnings, for example, for Wii U Virtual Console, which was a big deal. But they also announced this game called Blast Ball, and everybody kind of looked at it like, what is this? You know, they were, I think, propping it up at that point. It was like an eShop game, multiplayer, kind of like Rocket League, although at that point Rocket League was brand new, so it wasn't necessarily them stealing the idea. It was just kind of like Rocket League. It was soccer, big ball soccer. And everybody was like, okay, well, this kind of feels weird, almost a little Metroid-ish. And then the next day, they announced it as Metroid Prime Federation Force in the Nintendo E3 2015 digital event. And the reaction to this game, but not just this game, just every other game around that time, that was the E3 of Ultra Smash, that was the E3 of Amiibo Festival, Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. It was not an E3 people were happy to be Nintendo fans, because it felt like every game that we were getting, that was the year that Chibi Robo Ziplash came out, the list goes on. That was the year that every game announced just felt like not what people wanted, and Metroid especially had been dormant for quite some time. The last Metroid game at that point was Other M, which came out in 2010. So that's a pretty big gap. That's already half a decade, and then if this is coming out in 2016, that's 6 years of waiting for a new Metroid game, and to get this weird looking chibi 3DS game. And at this point, I think, maybe I can't speak for everybody, but for me, in mid-2015, at this point, we already knew the NX was coming. I was kind of already checked out on 3DS a little bit when this was coming out. This came out in late 2016, in August, I believe. So, I don't know. The circumstances surrounding this release was definitely not in the game's favor. It's made by Next Level Games, who are now known for making the Luigi's Mansion series. They also did Mario Strikers Battle League. So, it's a good team. It's a team that people really like. Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3 are well-beloved games, but maybe they shouldn't have been put on Metroid, at least not at that time. Now, a year later, we did get Metroid Samus Returns from Mercury's team, which was a fantastic remake of Metroid 2, and then that same E3, they announced Metroid Prime 4, and then, of course, a couple years later, we got Metroid Dread, Metroid Prime Remastered. So, Metroid's in a pretty great place right now, with Prime 4 still just on the horizon. I think Federation Force just came out at a really, really bad time. If it had even come out a year later, let's say Samus Returns came out in 2016, and then Federation Force came out in 2017 or something, I feel like the reception would have been very different. But just setting the stage here for why people hated this game, just off rip, before even playing it. But now we can talk about the game itself. I actually really like it. It's not perfect, and it has some structural issues and some gameplay issues, and the controls aren't great, but I actually do quite enjoy Federation Force. In fact, I would need to go through, I don't think it would be in my top 10 3DS games, but it is actually a very good 3DS game. I just wish it wasn't on the 3DS. I think that's its biggest issue as an actual game. So, getting into it, the Metroid story, some people can take it or leave it. Basically, the plot is just the Galactic Federation is making these mech suits to deal with the space pirates. It's nothing too crazy. Not to get into spoilers or anything. I know there's some post-credit stuff that teased for Prime 4. But basically, the mission structure is just, there's 22 missions, and you go through with a group of friends. You can do it by yourself, 3 players, 2 players, whatever it is. And it's just mission-based, and the tasks are normally just defend this thing, or go through this facility and activate a thing, or escort this payload, that kind of stuff. It's very just defend the objective normally is how I would describe most of these, with the few exceptions of okay, this mission's just a big boss fight. This mission's like a stealth mission almost. I like most of this. I just wish there was a little bit more. There's only a couple of bosses, really, and the bosses are fun, but there's just not that many of them. The defense missions are definitely the main thing in this game, defending something. Those are fun, but it can be kind of frustrating. There was one mission in particular, mission 11, that me and my friend Caleb were doing. At this point, it was just the two of us. We started the game with 4 players. 2 of them dropped out halfway through because they didn't feel like beating it or whatever, or the timing didn't work out. Mission 11, for some reason, is just really hard on 2-player. Maybe we weren't taking advantage of our mods at that point, which we'll get to, which are basically just like abilities or items. But it took us a couple tries to beat Mission 11, and something that is really frustrating with this game is there's no checkpoints. So a mission can be 10, 15, 20 minutes, but if you die at the end, you have to redo the entire mundane level, which is just kind of frustrating because there's no scaling for difficulty. If you play solo, there's a mod ship that basically gives you double the power, which I didn't play too much single player, so I'm not sure if that really helps. But if you're playing with 2 people versus 4 people, you are simply at a disadvantage, which is just, I don't know, man. You could have maybe spawned a couple less space pirates, maybe a few less bruisers. Sometimes it gets really overwhelming with just 2 people, so I wish there was more difficulty scaling. Overall, the game's pretty easy, but there are those moments where it's like, okay, this is just stupid. And then, like I said, there's no checkpoints, so it just gets really frustrating when you lose and have to redo that entire mission again for the 3rd time when you lose it. That was really the only mission we really struggled with. There was another mission where we had to catch this little orb that was flying around and bring it back to the ship. And the space pirates and the elites and the cloaked space pirates and all that stuff, they just kept spawning, and that was really frustrating because there was no health pickups or anything at that point, so we were just struggling because it was supposed to be that you have 4 people and all 4 people bring one of these things back, but because it was just 2 of us, we both had to do it twice, and it just didn't work out because, like I said, the pirates just kept spawning infinitely, and it was really frustrating. But, and I'm sounding very negative right now, overall, I do really enjoy the gameplay. I think a basic mission structure like this is fine. You do a thing where you bring something back to the ship, or you do this escort mission where you just have to escort a payload, like in Overwatch, for example. These make sense, and they're fun, and a co-op setting. I'm not sure how fun this game would be single player, so keep that in mind. But I enjoy the gameplay. The controls, I don't. You get used to them pretty quickly, but this game uses gyro. I was playing on a 3DS XL, not a new 3DS, because my 3DS XL can capture footage. So I don't know if it's better with the nub. Maybe you can get a Circle Pad Pro or something. I don't even know if this game is compatible with that. It's a first-person shooter, so the way you aim and the way you look, like your arm cannon or your mech blaster, whatever, the controls are very cumbersome. If you press left on the circle pad, you move to the left, but also you look to the left. And then you have to like hold R to like strafe. And it's just, they did what they could with the 3DS's hardware limitations of being lacking buttons. But I think my biggest takeaway from playing this game has been, I just wish it came out on, not even fully joking, the Wii U, or just waited to be put on the Switch. The game looks really good for a 3DS game. Like, it's probably one of the best looking first-party 3DS games up there with, like, you know, Ocarina of Time and stuff. But I just feel like if this had been put on the Wii U or the Switch, would be more preferable, a couple years later, the reception would be very different. Because it is a fun time. It is a fun co-op game to play with friends. It's not Metroid, but it is a fun co-op game. And the controls aren't great. So if you could have used the Wii U gamepad or just the Switch Pro controller or something, it would have been much, I think, better received. Even though, I mean, reviews for this game are pretty positive, and people are always going to dislike it because Metroid, like I said, was in a tough spot. I don't know. I just wish it had been on another console with more proper controls. This game is never going to get ported, but I would like to play this game with a regular controller because, you know, during one of the missions where it was like a defense thing, we had to defend this pod or whatever, and we were on this circular platform. There were enemies spawning from all over, and you can check like if they spawn on the bottom screen, which is all fine and dandy. The moving left to right and turning around, there's no, like, you know in Resident Evil when you like press down and the B button or whatever that would be, X, you can do like a quick turn. There's no quick turn in this game. So turning around and like using the gyro on your 3DS, it gets very, I don't want to use the word frustrating, but like your hands get cramped. It doesn't feel good for long play sessions. So the controls are probably honestly my biggest issue with this game. With all that being said though, however, I do like the game. I really like the way just combat feels. I did a very controversial review of Metroid Prime because I played it for the first time when it came out on Switch. Listen, Metroid Prime certainly is a better game than Federation Force. I won't even deny that. But I have a lot of issues with Metroid Prime. I think the game is way too overhyped, which definitely affected my expectations going into it. The combat in Federation Force, without a doubt, is better than Metroid Prime, for example, which I would hope so. It came out 15 years later. So before you go into a mission, you have to select which equipment you want to bring. And the equipment has a very wide variety of what it does. It can be a proximity mine, it can be a super missile, it can be a regular missile, it can be a beam that slows down enemies so your friends can shoot them, it can be an ice beam, it can be an electric thing, a fire thing. And it adds a lot of nice variety to how the game plays and how combat works. You know, if you're going into one of these defense missions like I'm talking about, you're going to want the shield you put down, and it just protects you from all projectiles, and it's freaking awesome. Or the proximity mine, so that when a big enemy comes, you can just shoot it at it and it explodes it. Or the super missile for a boss fight, so you can do half the damage of the boss with just one super missile. I really like this system. Some missions, it'll lock certain equipment, so like you can't bring a super missile to every mission, because why would you even really want to? So it depends on the mission, and you know, I kind of wish, you know, they have like a little dialogue blurb saying what the mission is before you go into it. I wish it would just straight up say like, okay, this is recommended for this one. They might hint at it in like the little text, but you know, if you're going into, I won't spoil anything, but there's a mission where you need ice shots, and they'll give you ice shots like from pickups. You destroy these little boxes around the map, and they'll give you power-ups. But I wish it like would have just said like, hey, you just bring these, just do it, just bring these. But I guess having the freedom to not bring them is cool. So I really like this system. It makes the actual just core gameplay of defeating space pirates very fun, and it doesn't get old really ever. My issue with the controls aside, and certain parts of the way the gameplay missions are structured, the actual combat is very fun and very there's a lot of variety there. There's also this really cool thing called mods. So, of course, the whole thing with the Galactic Federation making these mechs to deal with the space pirates, of course, you have to have some customization in there. You can equip 3 mods, and the mods basically just give you boosts. And this was cool working with just 2 people. I imagine if you played with 4 people fully through the game and really got into the nitty-gritty of it, it'd be even better. But basically, you equip these mods, and, for example, my shield now lasts 30% longer, or my turrets, which you can equip turrets that like shoot for you, those will have 70% more health. Working with a team, it's actually really fun. I imagine for single player, this would be kind of like a moot thing, and that's the whole thing with this game. It's a multiplayer game. You can play it single player, but if you can find friends, definitely do that. Working together with your team to figure out, okay, I'm gonna put on this thing that makes my turrets more powerful, but I'm just gonna take all of the turrets. You're not gonna get one. Or I'm gonna put the shield, the boost and shield lifespan, I'm gonna put that on, so I'm gonna take all the shields. Or, oh, my friend Caleb had something where if he healed me using one of the heal items, he fully healed. So it's like, okay, well, in that case, I'm just going to let you take all of the healing into this next mission. And I think with more, like I said, with 4 people, that'd be even better. But even just with 2 people kind of working together, it's nothing like crazy. It's not like some crazy puzzle, but it's just like fun. Every mission, checking out what new mods you unlock. There's like mods hidden around each mission. Collecting them is fun. I enjoyed the mods. I really like that. It just, once again, adds that sense of cooperation, figuring out what you guys are going to do together on this next mission, whose role is what, basically. You know, it's not like an Overwatch game or like a hero shooter where you go into it and, okay, I'm picking Winston, bro. I'm putting the shield down, but you have to say like, okay, I'm using shields. I'm basically playing our defense right now. You can be offense, for example. So I really like that aspect of the game. You can also change your mech's paint job. Now you unlock not that many through playing the story mode. I don't think, from what I could tell, I didn't get that many. There are a lot of amiibo ones though, and I didn't scan any amiibo because I don't have the little NFC reader. I guess I could put my cartridge into my new 3DS, but whatever. And I should say, back to kind of mission structure, there are like challenges. So each mission has like a separate objective. So one of the missions was like escort with this extra egg or whatever, or do this part of the mission without taking damage, or it's usually pretty basic stuff. Sometimes that can be hard, sometimes it can be pretty easy. Beat the mission within a certain amount of time, that kind of stuff. And you'll get score based on that, based on how many enemies you killed, all that stuff, and that gets all tallied up, and that's how you get the gold medals. So the gold medals don't really have much purpose. It just goes next to your player name, like in a lobby. So like I'm level like 27, I think, or something, because I didn't do too many bonus objectives and I didn't get that many points. But I think maybe that's how you can unlock more paint jobs and stuff like that. And it just adds more of replay value. If you really want 100% Metroid Prime Federation Force with your friends, you can go through and try to get all 3 gold medals on every stage, doing the bonus objective, beating it in a certain amount of time, doing it, you know, not taking damage, that kind of stuff. You also unlock a hard mode after beating the game. So there actually is quite a bit of content here if you really want 100% Metroid Prime Federation Force. If it were on another console, like if this were on the Wii U right now and the servers were shutting down, I probably would. I probably would have played it when it came out, but I probably would actually just be like, okay, I want to 100% this game because that seems really fun to me. I can't imagine how hard the hard mode is if we were struggling with some stuff on just 2-player, but overall, to wrap it all up here, Federation Force is a game that just gets a very bad reputation because of what it was when it released. I think if it released right now, it would do way better reception-wise than it was on 3DS. Metroid was in a terrible, terrible place in 2015 when it was announced, and the moment people saw it, they decided, okay, we don't want this. But now that Metroid is in a better place and we can look back on this game, I think it is worth playing. If you can get some friends together to play it before the server shut down, I recommend it. Give it like an hour though. Like the controls, that'll take a little bit of getting used to. But if you just want a fun co-op mission-based game to play with your friends, it's fun. It's not what you really go to Metroid for. You know, it has a lot of that Metroid DNA. Those doors are all the same, and some of the areas, like it's not like open, but it kind of feels kind of like a Metroid game, just like the areas, but it's not Metroid. It's not Metroid Prime, certainly. But despite that, it is still a fun game, and like I said, if you can get some friends together, I definitely recommend it. I don't know how it would be single player. I didn't really try that, so I don't know about that. Maybe it wouldn't be too fun in that case, but just playing it with a couple friends here and there is definitely a good time, and it's not super long either. It probably took us maybe 10 to 15 hours to beat it all the way through. So if you want a nice final online 3DS game to play before the server shut down in 2024, I would recommend Federation Force, because you're not going to be able to play it very soon, unless you, I think Pretendo is doing some stuff with the 3DS servers now. So that is it. That is my review of Metroid Prime Federation Force. Has a lot of issues, but I still really like it despite that. And I am glad to have finally played it. Like I said, it's one of the last like really major first-party 3DS games I just had not even really touched. So it's nice to be able to check this off the list. And of course, I will be playing more 3DS games soon before these servers shut down. I think I might redo Mario Kart 7 because on this 3DS, all my save stuff got wiped, so I might just replay that game, maybe do some online matches types of videos. That could be fun. There's still a lot of stuff on 3DS that needs to be played before these servers go down. Let me know in the comments below, are you going to be playing Metroid Prime Federation Force with friends before the servers go down, or just any other 3DS games before you can't play them anymore? This has been Botox Games. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo 3DS, Switch, Wii U coverage, all of the above. And until next time, folks, peace!